Okay, everyone. Sorry about that. If you're here for the social media for MSPs webinar, you are in the right place. Can everyone hear me now? I will send, if you can just, a couple of people could just send a note. Okay, there we go. So we are here. Thank you. I apologize for that. The very last webinar I do on this side of the pond and everything doesn't seem to work right. Anyway, my name is Scott Colonico. I am the editor of MSP Business Management, and thank you very much for your patience for coming to today's webinar. I think it's going to be a good one. With me is Mr. Richard Tubb, who is an independent MSP consultant and a social media, well, I'd like to say maven. Richard, could we call you a maven, do you think?
I've been called a lot worse than that, so maven is excellent.
Okay, and also with us is Mr. Owen Kane from the KRS Group. Owen, you're coming to us from Canada?
That's correct.
Okay, excellent. And Owen is going to be our in-house Google Plus expert who's going to show us all sorts of tips that we can find out about that. Once again, apologize to everyone. We are recording the webinar. I will cut out the part where we are not saying anything, and that'll be up on the MSP Business Management website in probably about 2 weeks or so. And you'll get an email, an automatic email from the program that'll tell you where you can download that. Before we get started, guys, just some housekeeping tips here. Like I said, yes, we are recording this because I know we'll probably get a lot of people asking me if we are recording this. We are, yes. And also, you feel free to ask questions during the presentation. We'll have a Q&A at the end, about 15 minutes or so. We'll stay for Q&A, and we'll have Richard and Owen kind of go for a free-for-all. But if you guys ask a good question in the meantime, that's kind of pertinent to what we're talking about, then I'll probably interrupt one of these two gentlemen and ask that question. So without further ado, gentlemen, are you guys ready?
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. Feel free to take it away, Richard.
Sure. Well, thank you, Scott, for inviting us back. We've clearly broken the internet by doing webinars around social media, talking about social media on the internet, but we're up and running now.
Yeah,
so, hello, everybody. I'm Richard Tubb. I used to be the owner of an MSP based in the UK. I sold that business a couple of years ago, and now I provide expert help to other IT companies. And as Scott mentioned, very active on social media, and I'm absolutely delighted today to be asked back to present. We've run a couple of these type of webinars before and just had a phenomenal feedback. So we thought we'd mix it up a little bit today. You guys are probably a little bit tired of hearing from me. So Scott asked me for recommendations on social media experts to bring in, and Owen Kane of KRS Multimedia Solutions is my go-to guy for all things Google+. Owen is seriously the guy who knows everything about Google+, and he's making a real go of things and growing his business on there. So, Owen, thank you for joining us today.
Hey, you're welcome. Glad to be here.
So, Owen, perhaps you could just take 30 seconds or so to tell us a little bit about yourself, a little bit about KRS Multimedia Solutions.
Yep, KRS, we're a group up here in Toronto, Canada, and we're a custom software group and a Google Apps, Google Apps guides, I guess. We do everything Google.
Absolutely, and as I said, you're the first person I think of when I think of Google Apps. There's a lot of people out there selling Google Apps, but you've really made an art form out of it almost. So I'm looking forward to seeing what you've got to share with us today.
Great stuff, thank you.
So we're going to kick off, and not to cover old ground. I know there's probably a lot of people on the webinar today who have joined us before, so we're going to try and give you some real practical and unusual tips. And when I say unusual, I don't mean crazy off-the-wall stuff. I mean unusual in terms of the fact that they are tips that we know work, but not many people are using them. So it's my hope by the end of this webinar you'll take away tips that will give you a real competitive edge because there's not a lot of people out there making use of them. But I wanted to kick the webinar off just as a real overview. What is the return on investment of social media? Lots of people ask this. They say, well, there's lots of things I need to be doing in my business on a day-to-day basis. I haven't really got time for social media. Is it worthwhile? Absolutely it is. When I was an MSP owner, we won lots of businesses as a result of relationships built up on social media. And now that I work with other IT companies, I believe social media absolutely gives me a competitive edge for establishing myself as a subject matter expert. And that's fundamental to social media. Social media begins the process of building trust in you. It enables you to establish yourself as a subject matter expert. So for many of you on the call as owners or working within IT businesses, social media is a phenomenal way of getting yourself out there, building a reputation of yourself, giving you visibility to give you a competitive edge over others who are not doing this. And social media is typically used as a conversation starter. And we'll talk, this theme will pervade all the way through our webinar here. Social media is not a one-way conversation. It's not for you to shout from the rooftops about how cool you are and the cool things that you're doing. Social media is a conversation starter. Once you grasp that theory, absolutely you're going to make the most of it. Finally, people always ask the question, can business be won thanks to social networking? Absolutely, and Owen and I are going to discuss that as we go through. So, Owen, if I can turn to you first of all, what's your thoughts on the return on investment of social media? What has it done for you at KRS Group?
Well, actually, it was Richard who introduced me to social media back starting with Twitter. And I got to admit that I didn't see much use in it at the time either, nor did I have the time for it. But as things went along, it actually became quite the thing. And we've actually seen a rise in business as a result of it. And not necessarily in the areas that we would traditionally be playing, but other people coming to us looking for suggestions and ideas. So that certainly helped, and certainly the referrals we get are fantastic.
Absolutely, and I think that's the thing, isn't it? It opens you up, it establishes you as a subject matter expert and puts you in front of people who perhaps you would never connect with
Yes.
alternatively. So, yeah. Okay, so let's move on. So the next question we typically get asked about social media is, I haven't got time to create the content required to put it out there. What is it I talk about? And the reality of the situation, I say to people, is, well, look, you are not the one who needs to be talking all the time. You're not the one who needs to be creating that content. I'm a blogger. Owen is very, very active on Google+. We create a lot of unique content ourselves, but we also share a lot of content that other people have created. And so it's not so much about being a content creator as being a content curator. So think of the librarian who organizes the books. All of us on a day-to-day basis use social media. We read articles on our favorite websites, and there's a lot of content there that's going to be of interest to the people who want to do business with us, our potential clients, our potential customers out there. So as you're going through your day-to-day research, as you're looking at those interesting articles, it's a case of sharing that information with people who are following you. By sharing that information, you're going to draw like-minded people to you who see you as this content curator, almost a filter for all the information that's out there on the internet. I've heard it talked about as being a fire hose before, where you can't drink from the fire hose. So what you can do, you can be the filter that enables the drip of information to people, and people will look to you as a trusted source for information in amongst the chaos of the internet and all that info that's out there. So, Owen, if I can turn to you on this one, what are the areas, what are the websites that you typically look for information that you then share with your followers on social media?
Well, typically I'm looking at people who supply us with product or services. Mm-hmm. One of my favorites is my competitors.
Yeah.
And I have a number of like-minded individuals out there, Microsoft Value Partners, GFI members, part of the LinkedIn groups, things like that. And that's where I glean a lot of my information from.
Absolutely, and I know I follow with keen interest the content that you share on Google+, and it's interesting, a lot of the articles, we both work in the same industry, so there's an automatic assumption, well, we're both going to be aware of all the websites that are out there sharing information. The reality is, I use you as a trusted source or a filter, content curator for a lot of the information that I find of interest, because I haven't got time to go and browse those websites. I trust you. I know that you're going to bring that very special type of content there. So presumably your clients look to you and follow you on social media in the same way.
Exactly, and that's the key. Is I have a group that I put together called My Daily Dose, and it's just a number of key subject matter experts that I get notification on each day when they do a post, and those are the ones that I go through and look at.
Mm.
Well, I noticed,
talking of
social
media, I beg your pardon, Scott, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I noticed one, today, speaking about that, like, for example, today, I just noticed, I think MSP Mentor had put out a story, and literally, because I follow I'm sure you guys do, you're following so many people who are tweeting about MSP stuff, all of a sudden you see that same story, and like 7 people's different feeds, all of a sudden out there. It's just like all of a sudden that word's kind of spreading out there among, your peers.
Mm.
Oh, yes.
Isn't it fascinating, though, and this is probably a question to both of you, and we'll start with Owen. There is an assumption that being a content curator, or people say, well, aren't I going to be sharing the same content that other people are seeing? My opinion is there's so much information out there on the internet that it's really easy to miss stuff. So by being a content curator, you're absolutely going to share stuff that other people find of interest.
Oh, absolutely. And sure, sometimes I'll look at my home stream and I'll see the same post 3 or 4 or 5 times. But it's important not to look. I don't look at that as being a replication of content, although it is. I look at that as an opportunity for another individual for me to follow, because if they are posting that information, then that's somebody that I have a like-minded interest with that I may want to add as part of my groups.
Mm-hmm. There you go.
Absolutely. And I think the question, Scott, we were talking about this before, but as well as sharing information that's of interest to you, you can also put your individual spin on it. So it's not just a case of sharing a link. Many people share the links and then put their comment on it. So
Yes.
While the link might be the same, people's opinions differ. And it's a great way to start conversations, isn't it, to put those links out there with your opinion, and people are going to come back to you and say, well, actually, I agree, I disagree, and here's the reasons why.
Yeah, is it okay if I interject here? We got a couple of good questions in, guys. I just want to throw one of these out there. I know we're just kind of getting started, but I wanted to encourage everyone to keep asking questions. We got a question here from Caroline, who was asking, I think maybe this is directed to you, Owen. She was saying, if you share your competitors' content, won't that attract your customers to them?
Well, it's not that I'm sharing their content. I'm looking at what they're actually doing.
Okay, so you're watching their feeds and making those.
I may not be sharing their content, but I may be looking at exactly what they're doing. So, again, look at it as a competitive edge. I don't necessarily I would not necessarily share the content that they've shared, although I might. If it's of interest to my followers, I will. And it may not be perhaps I won't share that with my particular customers. I might share it with my peers.
Okay, excellent. Sorry about that, Richard. You
Not at all,
crack on here. Yeah.
Keep those questions coming, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's move on from there. So we were talking about starting conversations, so let's give the first practical tip, and it's going to be a Twitter-based tip here, and that is a Twitter tip that I think a huge amount of people overlook, and that is that Twitter has a really cool advanced search functionality built into it. So if you're looking to start conversations with people, and you can see the URL there, http twitter.com/search-advanced. Many people have never looked at this website, this web page at all. It enables you to search in a similar way to the basic search, for other users and for conversations and for hashtags. But it also allows you, and if we can see down the bottom of the screen there, to search for people near places. So if you're an IT company and you're looking to start conversations with potential customers in your local area, you can type that area into Twitter Advanced Search. It will bring up a list of people nearby to you within a certain radius who are talking, who are active on Twitter. Now, don't get me wrong here. There's going to be a lot of noise. There's going to be a lot of people potentially, depending on how big your local area is, who are talking about things that are absolutely not relevant to you, and probably, in the first instance, not at all relevant to IT support, or so we think. I've seen more than one example of where somebody in the local area has shared their frustrations with a certain company, perhaps even a competitor of yours. And I've also seen people talk about business on Twitter. So whilst it's very unlikely, I should say, that people are going to say, hey, does anybody know an IT support company I could speak to here? Although that does happen. They are going to share things such as, hey, we've got a business networking event that's running in the area, and I'm looking for an introduction to a such and such company in this area. So this is a great way to start a conversation with somebody in your local area. And as we know, we're never really sure where those conversations are going to end up. In many cases, people start following you as a result of the conversations you start with them. And that gives you then an opportunity to educate them to how you work, to the benefits that you can bring to their IT, and anything else that you want to put in front of them. So, in my opinion, a really powerful tool. Twitter Advanced Search, not nearly used by enough people there. So, by using it yourself, you can steal a march on others. How are we doing for questions there, Scott?
It's pretty good. Actually, this is another one I think that people were asking about. We asked for Owen and both you, Richard. What do you guys, as far as like a Twitter aggregator, what do you guys recommend? Because I know you kind of had some issues for a little bit there, Richard, but people, for instance, Rachel was asking about TweetDeck.
Sure. So, yeah, for anybody involved in our last webinar on social media, it was around the time that Twitter themselves had bought TweetDeck, which was my social media aggregator tool of choice. My personal opinion is that TweetDeck has become a less powerful product as a result of that purchase by Twitter, but I know many, many people who use TweetDeck and absolutely love it. My personal choice nowadays is for a tool called Hootsuite, and I'll share that link on Twitter shortly. And Hootsuite is a tool very similar to Twitter. If you're not familiar with these social media aggregators, they're free. Go and take a look at them. So we've got TweetDeck and Hootsuite. Go and take a look at them, have a play around with them, find the one that's right for you, and you'll find your social media activity to be a lot easier to digest and a lot easier to engage with people as a result of using those tools.
Yeah, what about you, Owen? There's one, do these tools post to Google+? Weren't you saying one of them does, I think?
Yeah, Hootsuite does
Okay.
Google+. And
okay.
yeah, that's my aggregator of choice.
Okay, excellent. Thank you for the questions, everyone. Keep them coming in.
So we're going to move on briefly here and just talk about video. I've mentioned this before on webinars. It's still something that I don't think has sunk in with a lot of people. We talk about Google being the dominant web search engine out there. Absolutely. YouTube, the reality is, it is the world's second biggest search engine behind Google. There is an awful lot of people out there who love video and are using YouTube as their way of finding videos. So again, if you don't have an established presence on YouTube at the moment, it's a Google entity. There's a really good reason why YouTube videos rank so well in Google searches as well, and that's because YouTube is owned by Google. Video is a great way of getting in front of people. And I've often said before that people love to consume information in different ways, in ways that are relevant to them. Some people like to read, some people like to listen, and other people like to see. And this is where video comes in. So a couple of practical tips we're going to give on YouTube. And the first one is customize your YouTube landing page. So once you sign up for a YouTube account, you can make it really customer friendly, share information about you and your business rather than the bog standard landing page. And for a great example of that, our friends across at GFI Max, I think, have done a phenomenal job of setting up their YouTube landing page. So it gives information. It has videos playing that are relevant as soon as you hit that page. So go and take a look at youtube.com/GFI Max.
Oh, thank you.
And the second practical tip, and this is one I started using recently, is, well, if you don't like the idea of using www.youtube.com/GFI Max, can be a mouthful, set up a custom URL. So I use a novel one. I use tubonthetube.co.uk. It's a lot easier for people to remember, and that refers people directly to my YouTube page, where I've got a number of interviews with IT business owners and people within the MSP industry. So Tub on the Tube, a lot easier to remember.
That's an excellent tip.
Well, and one thing while we're on it, just as I bring this up, Richard, is be sure if you do put up a YouTube video, link it back to your site. It's in the bottom where you can put the description. Make sure you include a link back to your website. You don't even have to put in any HTML or anything, because that all factors into SEO and the mysterious Google.
And you can also use those new annotation captions and things like that that you can place.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Where you can actually put a link to your web page directly in the video.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's a great tip. And I mean, if we may, I'd like to talk to you about YouTube a little bit more as we go on, because I know you do some really, really cool stuff with Google Plus and YouTube. So perhaps we can visit that in just a few slides' time.
Sure.
Cool. So I just had, we've had a few pieces of feedback on Twitter as well, Scott, about the webinar, and the one is an MSP, Mice and Pages, just sharing with me the fact that this week they used Twitter to provide a commentary on issues they had with a major supplier in the UK that was letting their customers down. And this commentary actually enabled them to provide a narrative and really to show that the major supplier was badly letting them down. A very emotive situation for them. But again, social media are a great way there for an MSP to engage with a supplier, to chivvy them into action, and also to share with anybody who's reading, including the MSP's customers, just what is happening and how hard an MSP is going to fight. So, that could be a negative situation for the guys at Mice and Pages there. Looking at their feed, they've clearly done a great job of keeping everybody involved up to date on what they're actually doing, and I think that reflects well with them with the customers. So if you'd like to take a look at that, that's at Mice and Pages, MYSONPAGES. So thank you for that. A good piece of feedback.
I'll send that up there.
Cool. Okay, so another tip for social media, and we've already talked about sharing links and sharing content. Share and share alike. Make it really easy for people to share your content. So first tip I'd give, if you're using Twitter and so everybody's aware you've got 140 characters on Twitter. If you use 140 characters for a piece of content on there that all 140 characters, people can retweet it, sure, there's the new Twitter retweet, but if they want to add their own comment to the end of it, as people often do, you need to be aware of that and make the 140, use a lot less than 140 characters. So bear that in mind where you're putting tweets out there. On a more practical note for websites, any content that you put up, any new content, make sure you've got social share buttons displayed prominently on your website. On the screenshot on the screen there, I've given a highlight of how I do it on my website. I've got the ubiquitous Facebook Look button. I've got the LinkedIn Share, but then and I've also got the Tweet button. I've got a couple of buttons that you don't see on some sites. The Google +1 button, which I know, Owen, we're going to talk about that in a few minutes' time, and also the Pinterest button as well. So make it really easy for people to share your content there. And then, it's just removing the barrier for them sharing your content and getting your content out there. So, Owen, the +1 button, how often are you seeing that on websites out and about there now?
Oh, an awful lot, and it's one of the great ways to get noticed on Google.
Yeah. So if we can, Scott, are there any questions at this point? I know we're moving through things I want to get to. So Owen's great content expert. Let's take a second for questions.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that we had enough time for everything. Let's see. While we're on, okay, Ramon had a pretty good one. In other social media seminars he's attended, he said that they've told him that you should use social media to funnel people to your website, such as posting an article on the blog on your website and use social media to bring people to your site. Do you agree with this? Which, I mean, that seems pretty agreeable. What do you think, Richard, Owen?
I'll jump in there first, if I may, Owen. I know you've got your thoughts on it. Not always is the answer. And I know Owen will 100% agree with us on this. Social media is not for selling. You are not there to sell on social media. What you've got to do is earn the permission to talk to people about your products and services. And the only way you can do that is by providing value to them. So you will see hundreds and thousands of examples of companies out there, including your competitors, who believe social media is a platform for them to shout to the world about their products and services. Well, let me tell you, there's tons of advertisements we're bombarded with every day. Television, radio and newspapers. Even when we're visiting websites, there's adverts all over the place. And what do most of you do with those adverts? Well, you ignore them. You filter them out. But if somebody is providing you with consistently, good quality and valuable information, when they occasionally put something in there that talks about their own products or services, you're much more likely to look at that. So I think in answering Ramon's question is, no, in my opinion, not every link you put out there has to link back to your website. Absolutely not. There's no harm at all. In fact, it's a good thing to put stuff out there that's just of value to people, and then you earn the permission to share links to your own content along the line. Owen, what's your thoughts on this?
I agree 100%. I can't overemphasize the fact that you shouldn't sell. It's all about engaging and getting people to engage with you. That's how you learn, and that's how they follow you.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I think, Ramon, I think the answer to that is, when we said this webinar was about unusual tips, it's unusual because not a lot of people are doing them, and it works. It feels counterproductive to not talk about your own stuff, but the only way you're going to engage with people is by providing value to them.
Excellent. That was Ramon saying. Ramon just gave you the thumbs up, Richard. Owen. So.
There we go. Okay, so moving on to my favorite part of the webinar now, and I'm hugely excited about this because of the fact we've got a real expert on Google Plus on the line with us in Owen. So Google Plus, first of all, it's, most people will think about Google Plus. Most people won't be on Google Plus, and I'm interested, Scott, in the results of the poll that we had at the start of the webinar there, if we can perhaps dig those results out and see.
Yeah, let me share that now. There you go. So that was the results. Let's see, what do we have? 64% of the people said Facebook, 29 were on Twitter, and then Google Plus down to 6. A little bit ahead of Pinterest.
Yeah, and I don't think that's any surprise.
No surprise.
No surprises at all to us. But Google Plus, most people talk about, and I mean, we'll vehemently disagree with this. Most people talk about Google Plus being Google's Facebook competitor, but it absolutely is much more than that. There are, and I'm going to talk personally, and then I'm going to hand it across to Owen because what he's got to say is really valuable. Google Plus, for me, is a fantastic way to engage with some of the best people in not just our industry, in other industries as well. There's a lot of really top-notch experts who have made their home on Google Plus. You may not be able to get through to make contact with those people on Twitter, on Facebook. They certainly wouldn't take a telephone call from you or perhaps answer your email. Google Plus, you've got a great opportunity to listen to what they're saying, to engage with them, and to learn from them. And what's more than that, Google Plus, is a fantastic platform for doing business on. It's a fantastic way of reaching people and showing them some really phenomenal technologies. I'm not going to go on about it because I really want to hand over to Owen at this moment. If you could, Owen, can you give us an overview of what Google Plus is and why to you it's much more than just a Facebook competitor?
Well, I first started out on Twitter. I mean, as far as social networks are concerned, certainly Facebook was the initial one I was with, but I tired of it very, very quickly. Twitter just didn't, I mean, Twitter was great for those 140 characters, but I just wanted to say more, and that's where Google came in. And I guess I look at Google Plus as kind of a mix between Twitter and perhaps Facebook, and that, or actually Twitter and a blogger more than anything else, because it gives us the ability to do both. I can either make it short or I could make it long.
Very powerful. We've talked about blogs on social media webinars before and the value they can have. I think one of the benefits of Google Plus is, you hit the nail on the head there. You said you can say a lot more than you could in 140 characters. And don't get me wrong, Twitter has its place, have to all of the tools. But would it be fair to say, Owen, that Google are paying a lot more attention to the content that is shared and the things that are said through Google Plus than they are any of the other social networks?
Yeah, well, actually, Google are no longer indexing Twitter, or at least the majority of Twitter is no longer indexed by Google. So Google is becoming well, there you are. I said it in the first slide there. It's a social spine of Google.
Yeah.
A lot of people used to say it was a ghost town, and I have to admit, when I first started off, other than perhaps one or two individuals that I might have been able to find, it to me was a ghost town. But today, 190 million users after a year, and 1 million businesses online, and it seems to be growing and growing. So
how many followers do you have on Google Plus there, Owen?
Well, on the personal side, I probably have upwards of 3,000 now. And on the business side, we're just over 1,000, which is not bad for a small business site on Google.
It isn't. And so for anybody who says Google's a ghost town, you're quite happy with the fact you've got 1,000 potential customers there, or 1,000 people who are interested in KRS Group listening to what you've got to say. Yeah,
and the whole point behind Google is it's both the personal account and the business account, or it's actually, in our case, it's a personal account and a number of business accounts that we use for different things. So in that sense, that's where we spend the majority of our time. And when I say the majority of our time, it's not more than a half an hour, probably at the first thing in the morning and towards the end of the day. That's really when we get involved.
So let's talk about the way you use Google Plus then, if we may, Owen. So you've said you've got a mixture of personal and business things on there. So how do you make the differentiate between what you share on there, and there's certain settings within Google Plus you can use, isn't there, to make things private and not so much?
Correct. And again, if you happen to be a Google Apps for Business user, you have the option too of using Google Plus Premium, which gives you even more features which you can add into your domain. But we can get that's a subject for later times. But typically what I try to do is I certainly engage on the business on the personal side with the followers that I have. But on the business side, I will post to my circles within the business pages, and I will, depending upon the content that I place on the business page, I may elect to share some of that on the personal side too, and then engage with those people from the business page, and that tends to get me more people being followed on the business side once they see the content that we're producing.
So let me ask a question about the business page, if I may. I'm going to guess that most people on this webinar, even if they're aware of Google Plus, perhaps haven't secured their business pages there. How important is it, to people who want to find businesses through Google and the SEO side of things, for instance? How important is it to have a Google page, and what results have you found from it?
Well, one of the interesting things that's happened in the last little while is Google had originally had something that they call Google Places, where a business could, especially a brick and mortar, where they could advertise their business online, and it kind of wasn't really tied into AdWords, but it was just another place that you could go and look for information on a particular business. And what's happened over the past 6 months is Google are now well, I guess getting rid of Google Places. In actual fact, I think you'll find that if a lot of the businesses and some of them here today, will actually find they already have a Google Plus page, unbeknownst to them. And if they do a search on Google Plus, they may find it's there, and they can actually go and claim it.
Okay, because we actually had a couple of questions, guys, while we're on this subject about Google Plus for businesses. For example, Ricardo was saying, is it true you cannot have company pages on Google? So a lot of people up there don't know. And then somebody else, let's see, Marco was asking, if we have enough time, briefly, could we talk about how you would actually go about setting up a Google Plus page for your business?
Yeah, well, if we want to move along here, we can go to the next few slides, and we'll just go quickly through them. But there's a lot of content that I don't think we can really cover today. But
yeah, and I can see. I know we're getting a lot of questions about it, Scott. So maybe for those people who are interested in Google Plus, we could do something perhaps again with Owen, another webinar specifically about this. It seems like there might be a demand for that.
Yeah, definitely. But keep those questions going, everyone. And if we don't get to them, what we do is it keeps a rolling log of these. And so I'll send these to Owen and Richard. If you have any questions, if we don't get to them today, then they'll be sure to get back to you. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Josh.
So Richard, why don't we
answer the questions? Yeah, I was going to say, Owen, for anybody on the line, the biggest practical tip I'd get for them if they want to connect with you more is go and get themselves set up on Google Plus and
there you go.
Straight away.
Yeah.
And talking of circles, could you give us a quick
go back one
overview?
slide?
Yeah.
You want to go back one slide?
There we go.
All right. So I think the first thing is in order to have a company page, you need to have a personal account. So that's fairly simple to set up. And you can set that personal account up. You don't have to have a Gmail address. You can use your own company email address if you so desire. One of the most important things I try to get across to everybody is make sure you set the privacy settings. And a lot of it is not hidden. I mean, it's quite there in the open, and there's some good help pages to guide you through that. Once you get the personal account up, then it's just a matter of going to the Pages section and creating your company page. Upload a banner picture. You can see in that little screenshot there that there's a banner that you can place on there, and it can either consist of 4 pictures or one great big one. And if you've got a nice profile picture of yourself or your company location or perhaps your logo like we use, you can place it on there as well. One of the key things you need to do is you need to verify your business page. And I can't overemphasize this much. Google does verify that your business page, and that's how it ties you into the Google search. So typically what you want to do there is you verify your business page by putting a follow me on Google Plus on your website, and Google provides you with the code to do that. And then once Google verifies it, then that's where the +1s start coming in. And you'll begin to see that if you begin sharing unique content on your business page, it'll begin to show up in the Google searches. And going one step further, again, if you're using Google Analytics, you can take your Google personal page and your Google company page and throw that into the Google Analytics side. Recently, you could also, if you're using AdWords, which we use, AdWords now provides a social media dashboard directly back to your Google Plus page, which you can, again, use within Google Analytics. And probably a lot of information, but, I think the big thing is to find people, pages, topics, companies, and brands to engage with. And we'll cover that as we go on the next couple of slides. And, of course, setting up some circles. I've got some good ideas that, as I mentioned before, things such as My Daily Dose, competitors, my team, or products that I sell, things like that. And then one of the biggest things that came out recently was Hangouts, and I can't overemphasize this is absolutely one of the best things about Google+. So if there's no questions, we can go to the next slide.
Yeah, actually,
I'm just going to make a point about that. I'm conscious of our time, but if there's
Yeah.
one thing that jumps out to me from that slide is, wow, how much stuff is there on Google, and how important is Google Plus to finding your way, up the search engine rankings on Google. So many good features there, so many things that you can do. So, if you take just one thing away from this webinar, it's that, you really need to be paying attention to Google Plus, because it's going to be the foundations of where Google are moving in the future.
Yeah, I just want to say to everyone, I just put up a link to where you can sign up for a Google Plus for Business page. So that's in your chat box there. All right, carry on, Richard.
Sure.
And Owen.
There we go.
So now we talk about circles and ripples, and I guess from this stage where we're talking about is how do we find people to follow us, or how do we grow our audience? One of the things you'll find is that circles is the distinguishing factor in Google+. Circles is where you place people or where you don't place people. And with circles, you can have people in many circles or people in one circles. And when you're posting, you can share to those circles. So perhaps Tom might be not interested in MSP services, but he might be interested in Cisco. So I'll only share Cisco Pass or Cisco information with him, so he'll be in my Cisco circle. And again, you can have as many circles as you want, and I try to limit the number of people in a circle or number of companies in a circle to 100. One of the first things you need to do is you find a couple of people you know, add and invite them to the circle. So if you don't know anybody, please feel free to add myself or Richard or Scott. I'm sure our Twitter or our Google Plus account information is there. Another item I like to use is the Google search within Google Plus. And I use the hashtags, and if I'm looking for a certain person, I can usually find them. If I'm looking for a particular brand or company, I can usually find them. Or if I'm looking for topics. So if I'm looking for, say Google Plus conversations on Windows 8 or the new Windows tablet, for example, I can input that, find the people who are talking about it, and if I wish, I can try to engage with them. Again, Richard mentioned this before. To grow your audience, you got to post, you have to comment, and you have to start the conversations. You have to engage with them. I mentioned hashtags. That's important. Hashtags, just like in Twitter. And there are a lot of, how do I say, formatting within Google Plus, which you should learn. And some of the sites that I have at the bottom of this presentation will take you there on those items. Google Plus is probably one of the most media sensitive areas you can do. So photos and videos are a big plus, and they really stand out. A lot of the things if you go to the MSP site on Google Plus, you'll see Scott uses events. We use events an awful lot too, especially for our online hangouts and for some of the seminars we do. There's another feature in Google Plus called Ripples, and Ripples is a good example of it here on the page. What Ripples does is it allows you to look at a post. It may not be a post that you've posted. It might be something that I've done a search for. Let's say I'm looking for people who are blogging about GFI Max or posting about GFI Max or a certain product. And if I'm looking for people to engage, I'll use Google Ripples to find the people who actually interacted with that post. And I'll look to see if I can, again, add those people to my circles or add those companies to my circles. And they, again, become part of the mix that I use to engage with my own clients. And as I say, I mean, that's where I'm looking for potential influencers. I'm looking for like-minded individuals, and I can also look for potential clients there. And it's a great little source to do that. Let's go to the next slide, Richard.
Sure. This is gold dust, by the way, Owen. Thanks so much.
I mentioned Hangouts. Oh, we got that's the wrong one. Yeah, here we go. Hang on here. Yeah, Hangouts. Here we go. I use Hangouts an awful lot. I use them for online demonstrations. That might be one-on-one with the client. We use it with online education sessions. We usually, do that. For example, one of the ones that we use an awful lot is the lunchtime or the after-hour session that we'll do, between 12 and 1 or 1 and 2 and maybe 4 o'clock and 5 o'clock. And we'll usually get some of our people coming on, or some of our clients will come on and they'll look forward to those little education sessions. It might only be 15 minutes or 20 minutes or 30 minutes, but they're still very, very helpful.
Now, is there a limit to the number of people who can attend one of these? Yes,
the limit is 10 currently, yourself plus 9 other people.
Okay.
which, if you think about it, it's a fairly manageable group. Again, it helps you build brand awareness or product or company awareness. It gives you an opportunity to introduce products and get the service feedback. Internally, we use it for team meetings. We use it for project management. And much, I guess, the same as any other sharing application, we can share our screens. There are a host of applications which have been built to act from right within Google Hangouts. And of course, we can also do our own, presentations and show Google documents as well. But primarily, one of the big things is Hangouts on Air. And what Hangouts on Air is that we'll sometimes announce a Hangout on Air, and we'll actually do a live streaming. And although we can only have nine people plus ourselves there, what happens when we do a live stream? It's automatically recorded and put up on YouTube. And you'll find a lot of ours are private currently because we do them with clients, and we do that as kind of a premium thing. But we are planning on starting to do public Hangouts on Air very, very soon.
So awesome.
Okay.
Going back to the very start of our conversation when we said be a content curator rather than a content creator, because people struggle with creating content. Wow, look at the facility you've got there using Google Plus Hangouts to create content. You're engaging with clients, you're engaging with prospects, you can use them for team meetings. You can then record them all and put them straight onto YouTube, which is going to help with your SEO and content to share. You can then share the YouTube Plus, the YouTube bits and pieces on Twitter, on Facebook, on, I'm waxing lyrical about it here, but it's just a phenomenal feature, isn't it?
Well, and one of the nice things is that there's actually a Hangout tab, and you can click on the Hangout tab and actually see who is currently doing Hangouts. And if you want to, you can go and join one. Again, it's another way of engaging people that you would not normally engage with.
Absolutely. And perhaps, Scott, if there's enough interest, I'd be interested in what people have got to say here. So reach out to us via Twitter at Google Plus and email. And perhaps we could get Owen and we could do some more on a Google Plus Hangout, perhaps with a select group of people.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, most definitely. I mean, I think that we had a question here for Marco, who was basically who we haven't really talked about. I mean, of course, we haven't even talked about Facebook or LinkedIn yet, which that could be a whole nother webinar. But Marco was saying, Facebook. He didn't really see the point of Facebook for business to business. It wasn't really worth it for MSPs. But I think the key is here is it's kind of about your presence, and it's not about the amount of time that you put into it. It's the what you do. If you just come in and spend a few minutes meeting contacts or reaching out a little bit on your social media platforms, not spend all day on it. You're going to see something, an ROI after a while. Sure, it might not immediately pay off, but
well, one of the key things you have to remember about Google Plus is if you're on the personal side. For example, I'll give you a good example. Richard has a personal page. Richard doesn't have a company page. Is that correct, Richard?
That's correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So the only way I can really engage with Richard is on my personal side, and that's key. If you have a company page, your company page, you can engage with companies, and on the personal side, if you want to engage with an individual who has an individual profile, they have to engage with you. So again, it's that content that you get out there to get those individuals coming back. So really, the personal side of Google Plus is kind of protects the regular users from being spammed by a lot of selling. So really, I guess Google Plus is business to business.
Yeah, and the one point I'll make about Google Plus, sorry to interrupt, Scott, is I mentioned before the value I get from being on Google Plus, because there's, unlike Twitter, unlike Facebook, there's not a lot of noise there. It's all what I would call signal. So this is valuable stuff that's coming through. So I get the most value out of any social networking platform from Google Plus right now. because of the facilities Google have built in for me to filter out what it is I want to receive.
And it's not cryptic.
Yeah. It's fairly intuitive, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes.
So Scott, I'm very, very conscious of time here. I know we had some technical snafus at the start. How are we doing for time? And how can we go?
Well, we're about out of time here. So how many slides do we have get going here?
Well, I think we could talk about Google Hangouts some more, couldn't we, shall I?
Yeah. Well,
yeah, we got there's some links and resources right there for everyone.
Yeah, let's get back there.
Yeah, that's a good one. So that's for everyone. I'll start sending these out here. Google Plus tutorials. All right.
Yeah, the first one's a little YouTube video. It's actually a very, very good one. It's about an hour long.
Okay.
The second link is a list of recommended users. It's kind of an unofficial list, but it's actually quite good. The next one's a series of tutorials. Google Plus for Entrepreneurs, it's one I belong to. It's actually very, very engaging. And, of course, the last one is your own MSP. Should be MSP Business Management.
Okay. Yeah, that's okay.
But, again, this is a great example of how GFI used Google Plus to host events and publicize. It's very, very well done.
Excellent. Thank you.
So, Scott, I'm really aware of time, and so I'm just gonna because what I really want to do is make sure that everybody can get in touch with Owen. So
okay, yeah. Let's make sure we do that before we go.
Yeah.
Okay, so Owen, let us know where you're at.
Yeah, you can reach me on Twitter at pchelpdesk.rca, or there's my Google Plus addresses. Feel free to add me or contact me through there. I guess I didn't put my email address up there. You can contact me at okane@krsgroup.ca.
Wow, email's so yesterday, isn't it?
Yeah, no.
It's kind of like an afterthought.
Yeah.
So I'm a big fan of, there's been a ton of information in here, and we could have given a ton more, but I'm a big fan of people taking away one key takeaway. So I think the takeaway has got to be, if you're not on Google+, go and set your account up. That'll take all of about 30 seconds to do, and just circle Owen Kane there.
And Richard.
And MSP Business Management, of course.
So, Scott, I'm going to hand back to you if that's okay.
Okay, you guys got time for? We still got a few people here, so how about a couple questions, and then before we head off to the sunset here, and I head across the other side of the pond. Let's see if we can find a couple. Like I said, we do have a couple people asking about LinkedIn, and I think LinkedIn is obviously everybody knows about LinkedIn. So we were trying the goal of this webinar was kind of find a couple unusual tips, and that would be Google+, which is kind of the unknown kind of factor right now. Let me see if we can find, let's see, had a couple, everybody said great information, guys. A couple people said that was great. Okay, Paul has a good one here, kind of more about social media in general. He's asking, is it a good idea to be too personal on social media? He prefers to be more professional. But he says it's been suggested they upload some staff photos that are overly casual and silly. I don't think it would be a good marketing. What are your thoughts on that, guys? Is too silly good? I guess that's basically what he's saying.
It's a really good question, and I'll just answer it briefly if I can. So just remember the old adage: people do business with people they like. So do not, just be a corporate shill and you're just putting out information about your business. Granted, you're on there for business first and foremost. I totally understand that. But there is absolutely no harm in letting people know who you are, what you like, sharing bits and pieces like that. So, for instance, anybody who follows me on Twitter will know that typically during 9 to 5 or longer hours than that for my American friends, there's lots of posts about what it takes to grow an IT business, what's going on in the MSP industry, things like that. But for anybody who follows me keenly, they'll know that over weekends, well, I'm a massive geek and I'm a big Doctor Who fan, and I like reading comic books, so I make no bones about that. Because
there you go. What's kind of hip now? There you go.
So yeah, absolutely. So I think the mixture is probably 80-20, 90-10, something like that. The personal stuff you mix up with the professional.
Okay, and then see
it makes you human.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, let's see if we got time for one more, guys. And thank you, everyone, again for your patience. And okay, let's see. Okay, we got that one. That one. What would be? See, is it really hard to? No, it's kind of the same question. Somebody was asking about the. Basically, they were saying comparing LinkedIn to Google Plus. Which platform should people concentrate on more? Businesses concentrate more on. I think we know your answer, Owen. But what are your reasons? Why do you think that?
Well, actually, I don't. I mean, I use Google Plus primarily, but
Okay.
certainly you'll find me posting on Google Plus or on LinkedIn as well. I mean, I certainly belong to quite a few groups on LinkedIn, and where it's appropriate, I do. I tend to find, well, it's just my own opinion, but I tend to find sometimes that LinkedIn is a little bit spammy for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've kind of noticed that in some of the groups.
I'd agree with that. Yeah.
And I think I kind of tend to stay away from it from a. I use it as an ability to find other people that I might want to connect with,
mm-hmm.
and typically I'll find them on, but they're maybe not as engaging as much, and after a bit they are. So it just depends. Depends upon what I'm looking for.
Okay. And like we said, Richard, you said I like your idea. Everybody, something with a takeaway for everyone. So the best, in your opinion, each one of you guys, your favorite social media tool that you use, Richard?
So yeah, the one somebody asked me this question during the webinar on Twitter, and the tool that I would put out there is a Buffer app. So if anybody wants the address for that, maybe Scott can share it, but it's also on my Twitter account. So Buffer app enables you, it's a little plugin for your web browser. As you are reading and consuming content during the day, and you think, that would be interesting to share with people, what you can do is hit the Buffer app button. It will buffer up that link along with your commentary, and then it will drip feed those links over the day out there to people. So instead of, if you do most of your online reading, between 8 and 9 in the morning, instead of just putting a deluge of updates out there for people,
mm-hmm.
you can drip feed those updates throughout the day. Yeah. So Buffer app for me, really, really powerful.
Okay, and you, Owen?
Likewise, same thing.
Okay, all right, I'm sending that link out right now. And but that one, I think it wasn't the deal. The free version only lets you send out a certain number of updates.
I think it's 3, isn't it?
I think it's up to 10. I think it's 10. So for most people, if you think you're sharing 3-4 updates a day minimum, that'll keep you going a couple of days anyway.
Yeah.
Okay. I could be wrong there, but yeah, the free version's well worth checking out. Even if you just use it once a day to browse the things, it's going to ensure you've got a drip feed of information rather than a deluge or the fire hose as we talked about earlier.
Yeah, the 9 o'clock syndrome.
Yeah,
exactly.
There you go.
Exactly.
Excellent. Yeah. All right, well, Owen and Richard, I want to thank you a little bit. Not a little bit. I want to thank you a lot for your time and for coming out here and helping everybody out with their social media on this webinar. I apologize if we didn't get to your questions, but as I said, we've got a list of it. You'll get an automated email from the system in about 2 weeks or so. Give me time to get to the States, and then you get an automatic email, and that'll give you the address at mspbusinessmanagement.com where you can download. You can watch the presentation in high def. You can download the slides and any other information that we might have put up there. Gentlemen, so I guess that's about it. We're at about time. I want to thank you both. Owen, any closing thoughts?
Nope, just need information, please feel free to contact me.
Oh, excellent. And Richard?
People talk about me being a social media expert and that, which is very flattering, but I've just learned so much from listening to Owen in the last half an hour talk about Google+. So, Owen, personal thanks. Wonderful.
Yeah,
all right,
time to get on Google+.
Guys.
All right, thanks, guys. We'll see you.